Hello and welcome to Decoding Hindu Rituals and Symbolism. I have a guest today, and it's none other than my daughter, Anuva. And she was curious about some of the practices of Hinduism. And I thought that would be a wonderful segue to start a discussion or conversation on it, because I know many youngsters of her age are curious about these things. So if you have any questions, please mention in the comment box if you would like me to discuss about something. But today, let's see what questions Anuva has.
Yeah, okay, so I think the first one that I've always been curious about is more about the caste system.
Right.
I think conceptually we all know, we as kids know what it is, but I think it's very misunderstood growing up here, and the way non-Indian kids think about it. They have a lot of misconceptions about it, and we know maybe it's largely been done away with, but there are still some remnants left over. And I think I've never gotten a proper grasp of just how it originated, how it ended, what parts of it still remain, how prevalent it is for those trying to get married in India today, how prevalent it is for those who are Indian like me but born and brought up here getting married today, and any misconceptions that you think need to be clarified.
That's actually a wonderful question, because a lot of people have asked me about the caste system, and it is the most misunderstood
Exactly.
philosophical concept or principle of Hinduism, because it is considered to be hereditary, and it's not actually hereditary. It is a distinction, or rather should I say, it is a division of human qualities, and it is based on the awareness of a person. But unfortunately, it over the years, over thousands of years, it has degenerated and become, every religion or philosophy carries within it the seed of its own disintegration.
And I wanted to ask you, so I like to believe that when we pass laws or when different concepts come into place, they're well intentioned. No one was trying to marginalize or put this pressure or burden on the poorer people. That was obviously the effect and what it's largely known for now. And I'm by no means supporting this caste system, but I guess I'm curious, there must have been some reason why it was instituted in the first place,
Right.
and what that reason was. Because I don't think someone just set out to say, let's make poor people's lives miserable. There had to be some reason behind it.
Yes, oh, absolutely. And even before I even start describing the caste system, if you look at capitalism, which is by far the most accepted political philosophy in the world today, as compared to communism and what have you, but there are still problems within the capitalistic system, which is not to say that it justifies that, but it degenerates into it. What happened
Exactly.
in 2008, the financial meltdown, it was not meant to play out that way.
Exactly.
So there is this high philosophy, and then when it starts getting practiced, then the cultural and values of a time and age come in, and sort of it gets distorted and practiced in a way that it was not meant to. So to begin with, even if you have read about Plato's Republic, he talks about 4 categories of people there.
Yeah.
Even excuse me, Hippocrates, the father of medicine, he talks about the composition of a person, of a human being, based on the choleric, the phlegmatic, the melancholic, and the sanguine personalities. So this, all in every culture, they have recognized and accepted that human beings are very different personalities. And in Hinduism, we say that we are made up, the philosophy says that we are made out of 5 elements, which is the earth, water, fire, air, space, and also 3 qualities. So based on that permutation combination, each of us have a certain personality type. And we are basically all born Shudra, which is the lowest caste, which is your awareness is very low. You are dependent on everybody else to take care of yourself. And then when you grow, and there is this a parallel between a human being going through a Shudra to a choice to be a Brahmin, or also in a society there are different kinds of people. So let's just talk about the in society there are 4 kinds of people. One is the Shudra, where your awareness is at a very low level, where you really cannot take care of yourself. Your entire focus is on survival. And so all you care about is how I can get things. And then your awareness rises to a level which is we call the trading class, the Vaishya class, where it's a transactional. You realize that you have to do something to get something. And then your awareness and consciousness rises to the Kshatriya class, which is called the warrior class, or the political class in today's world, where you don't really want anything from anybody. You really want to take care of people and uphold social justice. But there is a huge amount of ego involved. And then finally, we have the Brahmin class, which, contrary to popular belief, just because you're born into a Brahmin family doesn't make you a Brahmin. As the Vedas, in the Vedas, what they said is the Brahmin is a 3-step process. First is when you choose to go on that spiritual journey to raise your consciousness, and that's why we have the thread ceremony, the Janeu and the Poonal in different parts of the country, we call it. So, and they are called Dvija. Dvija means twice born, born again. So you're born when you have no choice, but here you choose to go on a chosen path, on a journey, and at that point you are called a brahmacharya. In olden days they would go into an ashram, into the forest where there is a teacher. You live with the teacher for anywhere from 7 to 14 years. You learn everything there is to learn and you come back to society. But in the modern times you just do that as a ritual without realizing why you're doing that. That's where you go to learn all the knowledge and spiritual knowledge, and then you become a vipra, where you it's like a graduation ceremony. Yes, it's like law or even engineering. You know everything, but you haven't practiced it yet. And then when you start practicing it, when you start seeing the Brahman, which is that universal energy that sustains everything, that creates and is in everybody, once you practice that, see the universal energy, the unified field in everybody, you become a Brahmin. So by no means, just because you're born into a Brahmin's family makes you a Brahmin. And of course, in the villages, they followed it more rigidly. But in urban societies, I don't think it really carries that much meaning these days.
So you mentioned that it was ancestrally decided what caste you're born into, and only in the Brahmin class do you have to take certain actions to actually fulfill that being?
Actually, that is a much later connotation of the thing. In the beginning, when the many centuries ago, when Hinduism was just developing, everybody had access to that. It was not that only if you were born into a certain family you would go, just like division of labor. I mean, if you're born into a lawyer family, you don't have to be a lawyer, but chances are you will, because the environment is such that you've been trained in, you've seen, you have somebody to look up to, you have watched them, so it's more likely, but by no means you're guaranteed. But over time, the politics, it got the patriarchal system, and the politics of it ensured that if you're born into a family, then you sort of stick to it.
But I guess what I'm curious about is that these castes are defined by certain traits that you may have. Maybe a more fiery personality makes you of the warrior class. Is that?
That's exactly right. In fact, in Ayurveda, they call about the 3 types of personalities, which is the Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And depending on your personality type, in the beginning we talked about the 5 elements and the 3 qualities. These qualities are called Tamas, Rajas and Sattva. Tamas is the inertia quality. You really don't have anything in you to push for, to set a goal and to work towards it. And that is more the Kapha quality.
But how can you tell what qualities a child is going to be born with before they're born, just because they're the child of these 2 particular parents?
No, nobody can tell what the child is going to be born with.
How is the child born into a caste? How is the child labeled under a certain caste before even being born?
No, that is the cultural degeneration that has happened, because it's a political system. It's like the rich become richer, and the lawyer's family, they try to make sure that their child learns how to practice law. The engineer wants to make sure that his son has a good shot at it. It was not meant to be that. What happened is there was this structure in society where the Brahmins were pretty much like the researchers or the scientists or the academics who didn't want to really get involved in wealth creation and corporate world. So they would go away into the forest, which was their labs, and they would meditate for many years, and the information that they would get, they would share with the kingly class, the ruling caste, which was the Kshatriya class, who the duty of whom were to protect the whole society, and the business class was to create wealth for the whole society. And of course the Shudra class, when they couldn't do anything or didn't have that level of awareness or talent, they served people. So that can happen to anybody. And in the beginning I also mentioned, if you look within ourselves, we have all these levels of awareness. When you're born, you're a Shudra. You are completely dependent on other people to take care of you. That is that element of Shudra. Then you become a teenager, you go to a college, and you're able to earn. You realize you can pay for things and get services. And then you get married and you become a householder, and you realize that you don't need anything. You can take care of your family and your people who are dependent on you. And finally, at some point, you decide that maybe none of this, you want to retire, you want to pursue a spiritual path or your hobby that would take you towards that Brahmin. So a rough analogy.
And going back to the Ayurvedic analogy that you made earlier, you're saying that certain people are born with certain things, either Pitta, Kapha.
Yes.
So one, how do you determine what you were born with? What factors into that? And two, does that have any impact prophetically or historically on what kind of careers or different paths people of that Ayurvedic group
That's
take?
actually a brilliant question. Of course, in a short discussion like this, we cannot go into a deep analysis of it. Besides, I also don't have a very detailed understanding of Ayurveda, but at a very basic level, Ayurveda has 3 types of personality. One is the Kapha personality, which is the combination of the earth element and the water element. They are slow to understand, they're very calm, they take a long time to understand, but they retain it for a long time. And then you have the Pitta personality, which is the water and fire. So they're quick to learn, they're always, they have the best foot forward, they're go-getters, they're the life of a party, but they cannot retain anything. They cannot hold the space for anybody. It's like me, myself. They have to be the life of a party. And then you have the Vata personality, which is air and space. They are highly creative personality. They come up with brilliant ideas, but they cannot stick to any idea and take it to a logical end. They are the artists of the community, society. They come up with all sorts of ideas, but think about air. Air cannot be in one place. So having said that, all these personalities, there are sub-personalities. You could be little 30% kapha, combination personalities. Also, the other thing is, when you understand these personalities, kapha, pitta and vata, roughly think about it as earth. How would earth behave? And pitta is fire, the qualities of
reactionary.
Fire. Reactionary and always going up. It burns everybody. And then vata is air. It's everywhere. It cannot be contained anywhere. But one other thing I wanted to mention is, when you are talking about any of this personality, they have Prakriti and Vikriti. Prakriti is your nature. You're born with a predominantly kapha nature. But over time, because you didn't eat the right food, you didn't nurture yourself properly, you're in an environment that doesn't allow you to become who you are, then you become Vikriti, which is the opposite of your nature. So then, and a lot of people ask me, which is better, Kapha, Pitta, what? They all have their advantages and disadvantages, but also understand that I love to talk about fire, because fire is a fabulous element. I mean, you can't do anything in this, but as long as it's contained in the kitchen, you can have everything. But once it becomes a forest fire, that is a Vikriti. You have gone beyond the opposite imbalance.
It's kind of like your best quality becoming your worst quality.
Exactly, your best quality becomes your...
So with the Prakriti element then, what determines what you're born with? Is it the day you're born, the time you're born? Is it any correspondence to our Western zodiac signs? First of all, what determines it? And then if I, for example, wanted to know what I was, how would I go about figuring that out?
So that's also a very loaded question and a brilliant question. It's a lot of information. When a child is born, in India, in the olden days, immediately they would note the time of birth down to the last minute, And the time of birth, the place of birth is very important, and then a horoscope is charted out for you, and based on that, based on the placements of the planets and the moon and sun at the time of your birth, you would be amazed what kind of information can be gleaned into your past and future. But again, just like a medicine, if you go to a quack, you're not going to get the right treatment. Similarly, there are a lot of astrologers who have really not spent the time to get mastery over it, but just as a means of earning, they give all kinds of nonsense. So people have come to have a healthy disrespect for them. So the horoscope would give a lot of information about your personal character. You can go to an Ayurvedic practitioner at any point, not at birth, and just by feeling your pulse, and they can and looking at your tongue. And this is not just confined to Ayurveda. If you go to a Chinese traditional medicine specialist, they would do the same thing. They can tell you things about yourself and your family that will blow your mind away. So you should actually, people of your generation should suspend their judgment, do a little bit of research, go and talk to an Ayurvedic specialist, a Chinese medicine specialist, and a horoscope, and you know, look at it with an open mind.
Yeah. But on that note, there seems to be obviously this notion in Hinduism or in Ayurveda that some part of your life is predetermined, predestined, it's written the second you are born.
Right.
And how do you reconcile that with the dichotomy that we're raised on the notion that hard work is your ladder to success? And I get that luck, fate, hard work, they all somehow come together in unique ways for everyone. But I think the most difficult thing for someone like me who listens to you speak but then is born and raised in this American culture is reconciling the dichotomy between your life is to some aspect predetermined. No matter what you do, this is just the way your life is going to be because you were born on this day at this time.
Right.
Versus I have all these goals that I have been told I can achieve if I go to this school and get this degree and get this job and make this much money, which is all a result of how hard I work and what choices I make as a teenager and young adult.
Well, that's even another fantastic question, and we can keep talking about this. But yes, I would like to definitely address that question. Karma, or the law of cause and effect, is an integral principle of Hindu philosophy. And all it says is that every cause has an effect and every effect has a cause. So, and combine that with the Hindu philosophy that we alone are responsible for our behavior. You cannot, the entire universe, our universe comes into existence from our actions and our thoughts and our beliefs.
And our inactions also.
And exactly. So what we believe drives what we think, and what we think triggers what we feel, and what we feel triggers how we act, and how we act triggers what we manifest as karma. So there's no dichotomy between free will and destiny. They both can coexist. So when you are born, you have already accumulated, because of many lifetimes, past lives, and that is another key belief, reincarnation with under Hinduism. You have something, I will try to simplify this. Karma, there is this sanchita karma, it's called accumulated karma. And then every lifetime, the soul decides to bring a certain percentage of that karma to this lifetime to work on it. Not carries over, you decide out of that 100%, this lifetime I'm going to work on 20% or 50%.
Okay. And the remainder is waiting
Yeah,
for
so
you
the sanchita karma is the accumulated karma. And then you do prarabdha. You bring 20, 30, 40%, whatever your soul is ready to work on this lifetime here. But that part is destiny. There, nothing you can do can take away what you've already put into motion. You have come with that karma, that prarabdha it's called. But you cannot be fatalistic, because there is also a concept of karma called agami. That is, what you're going to do is constantly creating karma. So how you react or respond to the circumstances in your life, the people, the events, the circumstances, will determine what kind of karma you're going to create in the future. So you do have free will, but you cannot wish away what you've done in the past. So it's just like in a legal system. you have committed a crime, you have to go to jail for it, but you are given an opportunity to get out on parole by good
example,
and how much good act you put into the
but you can't do away with the stigma. Even if you do get out as a result of your actions, you can't get away with the fact that you have committed this crime. There's a stigma that results,
exactly.
There are consequences following that action.
Exactly, because karma believes in free will and taking responsibility for what you have created. So you cannot be fatalistic, and you can definitely work on your karma, not around your karma, but on it. And the most important thing is accepting responsibility, and responsibility is your ability to respond, and you can respond. That's another topic we can discuss some other time, with love, gratitude, forgiveness, and all these other things. But I just also want to briefly explain karma to you, the different kinds of karma, how you create karma. You know, when you and I are there and we work for each other, and I tell you that go and kill that chicken because we're going to cook something. And this is nothing to do with vegetarianism or nothing. It's just that I'm giving an example. And you go and follow my order. That chicken screams, and that scream is recorded in the Akashic record. Somewhere in the collective unconscious, this entire interaction or this incident is recorded. Now you and I and the chicken have a karma in connection. This, until it gets resolved, it's going to go forward lifetime after lifetime until we figure it out who owes what to whom. Then I don't ask you to kill a chicken. The first one is I kill myself. A chicken.
That's a direct one-on-one.
Yes, and it's called swa karma. I have done it myself. Swa is myself, I. Then I tell you to kill it. But that chicken and I, even though I have not killed the chicken, I have a karma with that chicken because intention binds her. That is called paraspara. The three of us have created an entanglement. Then there is called the samyoga, where neither you nor I have killed the chicken, but we go to a restaurant and eat in a restaurant that serves chicken that has been killed. Now, because we support things like this, that karma of all the things that are happening there, all the people that have done all the things, we have, the link may be very thin compared to directly doing something, but we are connected. And this is what our current, this coronavirus pandemic is. Nothing in the world can be contained to itself. If there is child labor in India or China, and we don't condone it, but we buy products those kids make, well, in some way you have contributed to that. So you have a karmic connection to that whole phenomenon.
So my last question on this topic then is, I understand that, but what advice would you have to people who, like myself, I go to restaurants and I eat meat, and what advice do you have for not living in fear of karma? Like, that's not something that I think about every time I go to eat at a restaurant, that I've indirectly supported the killing of an animal, right? But then I don't want to come, now that I know this, there's going to maybe be that nagging in the back of my head that you're accumulating bad karma by eating meat.
So that's a very good question. In Hinduism, nowhere it says everybody should become a vegetarian.
Yeah.
Because the Shudras and the Kshatriyas do eat meat, and they're not going against their dharma by eating meat. The problem arises is when we go, the difference between need and greed. So when we look at the way the meat industry and the milk industry, dairy industry in this country, or any country for that matter, look at, if you go to Koalinga, I mean, the amount they kill because they're creating a demand. You're not killing to just feed your hunger. This has become an economic syndrome right now, and we buy and we waste, and that one life was wasted because we didn't care about it. So in Islam, they have this halal practice. In Judaism, they have the kosher practice. So they say that do it in a very humane way, in a peaceful way, just as much as you need, not for greed purposes. To eat local, to eat. You have to do when we give away our responsibility because we just don't want to find out about it, go and eat, and then it doesn't matter how they've killed, how much they've killed.
It's called willful blindness, and you can be punished for that.
Yes, you can find out about how this is being done and support animal kindness or whatever, the cruelty against animal. You should be careful against that. And also, when the time comes, if you want to be a Brahmin, which is pursue a spiritual path, then you can become a vegetarian, not because you're a better person. Nowhere in Hinduism it says if you're a vegetarian, you're a better person. All it says is, it doesn't, it just says if you do this, this is the outcome. If you do this, that is the outcome. So if you want, again, we're talking about the tamas, rajas and sattva. Sattva is the qualities of detachment, of being able to get a grip over your insatiable desires. For that, you have to stop eating meat, become a vegetarian, because these are sentient beings, the animals, and when they die, their feelings transfer to you. So if you are not willing to take on that with the mass fear and guilt and whatever is happening in the world these days, a lot has to do with that. Not enough studies has been conducted in the Western world, modern world, but understanding that, okay, if I do this, these are what I'm gonna, it doesn't make you a bad or good person, but it's just like if dairy doesn't suit you, if you eat dairy, you'll have problem. That doesn't make you a bad person.
Yeah.
Similarly, does that answer your questions?
Yep, that answers
So
my
we'll
question.
continue this conversation another time.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, please comment and I would try my best to answer your questions. Thank you.